William Butler Yeats, on the other hand, William Butler Yeats, I don't have that problem with. It's not that I denigrate, not that I denigrate him as a poet, or that I consider myself to be his equal by any stretch of the imagination. But it's more that his voice, his writing voice, is like mine. I can understand how Yeats puts a poem together, and it doesn't feel like Keats, like a nugget of genius that just fell out of heaven perfectly formed. But Yeats has a voice very similar to mine, though softer, a softer touch, lighter touch, but a life that I can relate to as well. An Irishman, born to meager means, and much of his life torn between poetry and politics, which, as you may or may not know, is actually a fairly apt description of the last 10 years of my life, anyway. He was constantly focused on doing what good he could for his people, and doing what good he could for the world in which we lived, the world where he had experienced such deprivation. And in that poem, "He Who Dreams for the Close of Heaven," I see more of myself than most words or most works, including my own, unfortunately. And in Yeats, I have another hope that, unlike my other literary idols, he lived long. And very uncommonly for the profession of poet, generally lived well. Generally lived well. No tuberculosis in his early 20s for Yeats. No, sir. But the last three lines of that poem, the most frequently quoted of his work, and that's kind of an obnoxious phenomenon in its own right, that poets tend to be quoted in soundbite far more frequently than they are in whole. But those last three lines, and I do have to pull up the text, I don't have it committed to memory, feel like something I can lay some particular claim to. As another kid who grew up in some level of terror and destitution, and consoled by stories of Mogroith or Cuchulainn, and carrying and keeping only the treasures of the mind, I feel particularly entitled to those last three lines. That I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams beneath your feet. Tread softly, for you tread on my dreams.